Hi, Amy. I am so excited that you're here with me today to do a Sober
I am
Spotlight interview.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And it's like extra specially exciting because you're our newest Sober Curator.
Yay! I'm thrilled.
Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself briefly and who you are, how long you've been sober, what you got going on?
Sure. So I'm Amy Liz Harrison, and I just wrote a book last year, my memoir about alcoholism and the parallels I noticed between alcoholism and pregnancy and childbirth. And now I'm writing my next book. That one was called Eternally Expecting. And this one is called Eternally Awkward. And this one is about ADHD and women who are diagnosed at midlife, as I was. And basically, I live in Bellevue. I am a stay-at-home mom-ish of 8 kids,
Eight.
biological kids, and yeah, no
Eight.
twins.
And no twins. I always ask you, like, are you sure there's no twins in there? That's basically 8 years of being pregnant, Amy.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it was much easier when I was younger. So the last 4 were a little tougher, but I got through it. And yeah, my sobriety date is April 23rd, 2011. And I'm super blessed that my husband, who supported me through the whole thing, is still with me. I personally would have kicked me to the curb. So I'm very grateful that he's still, here and willing to be by my side. And now I kind of think I'm worth it, which I never felt before. So that's a gift of recovery for sure.
It absolutely is. Well, we are going to get through some fun questions, some easy questions, and maybe a couple more serious questions. But at the Sober Curator, I like to keep things lighthearted and focus on the fact that like we're sober, not boring. And like we got sober to live a full and happy and free life, not just talk about all the boo stuff that happened before. So to get us started, I got to know, what's your favorite non-alcoholic beverage of choice? What's your go-to?
I love LaCroix and I love Pellegrino with lime.
I'm all about the bubbles.
I don't know.
I just want bubbles and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems more, I don't know, bougie or something.
How do you feel about the bubbly brand?
I love it. I actually have some in my pantry right now that's waiting to go into the chiller,
And then I know that I was on your podcast a couple of months ago, and when we met there, you brought in all kinds of, was it generic sodas? Is that what we brought in? And you have a favorite generic brand, don't you?
I do. I really like the Signature brand that you can find at Safeway. So, if you put it in your trunk, you can let it age for a little while, and then it's nice and warm and loses its carbonation, and it's part of the fun.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, next up, you're an author. You've got your own book. You got a second one coming around the corner. What is there a quit lit book, a recovery memoir, or something that you read of somebody else's that you found? Can you hear my dogs? Oh my gosh, they're like, this is why we can't have nice things. They're like going like this in the background. A book that like really spoke to you, really moved you, maybe even inspired you to write your own.
I really like Between Breaths, I think is what it's called, by Elizabeth Vargas. And the reason I liked that is I was brand newly sober when I read it, and I just thought she was so amazing to tell her story so openly, being that she was in journalism, and it just inspired me that I could probably do it too. And I think, we just need that when we're newly sober. I just kind of felt like I was never going to make it. And so, Quit Lit was pretty important to me, but I really particularly enjoyed hers.
Yeah, I haven't read that one. I'm going to have to put that one on my list. You and I have been sober for over a decade, and I don't know about you, but in early recovery, there just wasn't a lot of books out there like to choose
Yeah.
from that spoke to me, right? There were some books, but not many that I like. I do tend to shop by the cover. If I like the cover, I think I'm going to like the book. I am kind of that girl. But
Me
it's just
too.
so great to see how many new ones are coming out all the time now. I actually feel like I'm getting quite a little Quitlet library at home, and it makes me really happy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think people were also a little bit less willing to tell their stories,
Yeah.
back in the day. And now it's a little more, it's acceptable. So
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Well, that's a good transition to my next question, is about sharing your story and recovering out loud. Do you have advice that you might give somebody who is new in recovery? Just, I guess, two-part question. Number one, advice about just being in early recovery, any tips to share? And then number two, second part of the question is, any advice around recovering out loud and being public with the fact that you're now a person in recovery?
Yeah. So to answer the first part of your question, I have so many tips, things that got me through dark times. But if I were to pick an overarching principle, it would be that feelings are not facts and they're going to change. And I think in early sobriety, I was pretty much convinced that whatever I felt at that moment was the end all be all. There was no other, thing to think. I had a really hard time shifting perspective. And really that you're gonna get through it. An example would be, I really was having trouble sleeping in my first month of recovery. And that's super common, for people just coming off of alcohol. And so I just thought, oh, this is the end of the world. I'm not going to be able to sleep. Well, so if that's the worst thing that could happen, you're going to be tired tomorrow, Amy. Like, that's okay. I'm going to survive that. It's not ideal, but it's going to be fine. And I found that to be true with most of the things that I encountered in early sobriety. Is, you know what? It's going to get different. Sometimes better, sometimes maybe not as, good or the way that I had envisioned it or hoped for. But it did always get different. And I did live through it sober. So it is possible and probable if, you stay close to whatever kind of program that you're doing or philosophy you're following. And so that would be kind of my first tip, or the answer to my first question that you gave me. But in terms of, okay, what did you say for the second one? Was
About recovering out loud.
Yes, out loud. Thank you so much. My brain is, I think that I might have tried to recover out loud before I was ready. And so my first year of sobriety, people would ask me, because I had a very public DUI. And so a bunch of people from my church were asking me about it. And Kay, can you come to my Bible study and talk to my Bible study group about it or whatever? And I kept saying yes. And there's nothing wrong with that, except that, you can't transmit something, right, that you don't have. And that's kind of what I was trying to do. And I don't know, you could just tell I was still super vulnerable, super broken. I was still raw. And so for me to just go to people's groups and share, it was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But really, I maybe should have waited a little bit until I had done the steps or, gotten a little further along on my path. And so when the time was right for me, it was almost like I had already seen how sharing my story, became a pathway to other people and having empathy. And, my past became my greatest asset. And so it really was a natural, next step for me was to start sharing my story. And then the pandemic proved that, oh, yeah, I can actually sit down and write my story out if I have time and I'm not driving kids all over the place. And so, yeah, it presented itself when I was ready. It's that whole saying, right? Like the teacher appears when the student is ready,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Is it weird that the other day I found myself like romanticizing or kind of wishing for those early pandemic months again, where we were all just kind of holed up and cozied up with our families? Like, I was like, I'd like a repeat, please.
Right.
I also loved what you said about, your feelings are not facts. I heard once in a church basement someone saying that feelings are just like gas. They may be uncomfortable and make you feel bloated, but they're going to pass. They're not permanent, right? So
I
I
love
don't know
it.
why gas jokes, whatever. And
So
I recovering out loud, for me, I was the same as you in the sense that I was slow to do it at first, but then maybe overzealous in certain places around certain people, right? And I didn't quite have a handle on what it was. I put a cover on my book, and I wore, I got the necklace, and I was doing all the things that I saw happening in the recovery community, but I hadn't changed anything on the inside yet. And I don't know, like, social media was just getting started when I got sober. And I really did not feel comfortable putting it out on the interwebs. I was fine if I would tell somebody like face to face and it was, helpful to whatever conversation we were having, but I certainly wasn't wearing it on a shirt or, posting it on my Facebook page. But over time I've gained confidence, and now I don't really care who knows,
right.
I don't know. It's kind of like, maybe an insurance policy too, like,
Sure.
because the more people that know, my ego, I can't relapse, because then all those people are going to be like, they know, so it's like, for me, it's almost like a weird insurance policy. I don't know.
Yeah.
So getting sober, how has that, obviously it's probably made you a better mom, better wife, and then created space for you to become an author. What other, those are all, those are all things I consider to be your career, right? Like, that's what you do with your time. How else have you benefited in recovery for, in your all the different hats that you wear?
Yeah. Basically, recovery has changed everything in my life. And, there was that little saying that they would say in rehab about, you just have to change one thing and it's everything. But it was really true for me. And not only was it true, it was probably the best thing I could have ever done. I came back after rehab and I realized I was going to have to move. I couldn't stay in the same cul-de-sac where I'd been drinking with all my neighbor friends, and my kids, school, we even changed that. And we just really took like a saging to our entire life at that time. And we became, I would say I became willing to just do everything differently. I was kicking and screaming, doing everything differently. But, the thing is, though, it has changed all my relationships, from my marriage to, the clerk behind the desk at Safeway to the TSA person. It's really changed the way I see people, the way I have a chance now to look at my motives. I thought I was a really nice person, and I think that, I was well-intentioned-ish, but I didn't know a lot of my ego, my pride, all of that stuff was even there. I had no idea. I just thought, no, this is how, I know these things, or this is me, and this is how the world operates. And really, I was just full of fear. So when I figured that out, with the 12-step fellowship that I was involved in, am involved in to this day, that was super helpful, just to see that, my motives are shady sometimes. And I had to look at that stuff, and it was really empowering. And so it's not to say that everything's amazing now and woo, and I have the best relationships ever. No, it's just that now I have tools. I have a design for living that has really, really benefited myself and also other people, because I can show up like non-hysterical usually and the best version of myself. And I feel like that's a living amends, particularly with my family.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I think it's affected my relationships primarily, is probably the biggest place.
What about your relationship with yourself? How do you practice self-care? What do you do to take care of Amy when you're not taking care of all the kids and the dog and the friends and all the things?
Yeah. So I do a daily little practice. It's in the morning. It's changed over time. But I do like a morning meditation and a morning meeting. And, I kind of like the bougie, frilly, like massage stuff. I know some people lately have been like, that's not self-care. It is to me. So I do that kind of stuff. Yeah. And, I just have realized, and I know it's a little bit cliche, the whole oxygen mask, put on your oxygen mask on the plane before somebody else's. But that has proved itself to be super true in my life. And I can't give something that I don't have. And if I'm like this juice box, right, that's totally twisted up because you're just trying desperately to suck the last drop out of it, there's nothing left of me to give. I just really, I really realized over time, and thankfully, I have the support of my family, because they don't like it, PS, when I show up and I'm just a jerk to them or short tempered. And so they're supportive of that too, is that, I gotta pull away and spend time on my own. And people will say, oh, so yeah, you're definitely not an introvert, because they'll see an outgoing personality and assume that. But I'm just an outgoing introvert. That's all I am. And I've learned that over time. And so, and finally, and I'll wrap this question up by saying this, is the first time I really realized that I was beginning to have a little bit of self-love in early sobriety was when I was on a plane and I was going back to the city where I went to treatment, and I was meeting with my temporary sponsor. And I got on the plane and I sat there and I thought, oh my gosh, I could totally order a drink. Nobody would know. Nobody knows that I'm not supposed to be drinking. Should I do it? And I was like faced with this dilemma. And immediately I thought, yeah, but I would know. And that was a turning point for me, because I cared. I cared that I would be basically betraying myself. And that was all brand new. And so self-love started to develop from that point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear that. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I wasn't in the best of moods. I wasn't having the best day ever. And I don't know if you've noticed, but it just feels like there's alcohol like at the end of every aisle. Like, I swear I'm not going to be surprised if I see it next to the laundry detergent. It's like everywhere. And for whatever reason, the White Claw display was really talking to me, right? Because White Claw came out after we got sober. So I'm always paying attention to anything that came out post my sobriety date. And I was like, I could just get a can and pretend like I didn't know that it had alcohol in it and drink it and be like, oopsies. But it was like, but I would know that I was lying to myself. And that's there's a lot of gifts in recovery, but being honest with yourself, at least for me, and it sounds like for you, is
huge.
Like a huge one.
Yes.
Because like I was the kind of person that if I got caught in a lie, like if you didn't believe me, even though I knew it was a lie, I was like so deeply offended that you did not believe my lie, right? Like to the nth degree. So And then I love your analogy of the juice box, because I got a very visual, like, you know,
Mhm.
I was thinking like Capri Sun or the High C box or something.
Yep.
When you were talking about that, you're right. Like, even though there's a little left in there, you can't get it when it gets to a certain kind of crunchy point.
Right.
Did you ever, you and I, one of the things we have bonded over, there are many, but one is our love of the 80s and the 90s and our childhood. Did you ever have milk in a bag when you were a kid in elementary
Yeah.
school? And
Yep.
like accidentally stick your straw through one end and it would go through the other, and then milk would fill up your tray? I don't know why I
Yep.
was thinking about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And we didn't even have trays at my school. So that meant like this crazy waterfall reaction.
We had it so hard. Kids these days have no idea.
I know.
No
I
idea.
know.
They can't even possibly understand a bag full of milk without a tray.
No, we're like the downtrodden for sure.
If you could go backwards and give your newly sober self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, I don't know if I would have believed myself, but I just had no idea how good my life was about to get in recovery. I mean, it's just been this trajectory of growth and learning and curiosity. And I mean, I thought never drinking again sounded like the worst possible. I mean, that was a death sentence in my mind at that time. You know, and I would future trip and worry about all kinds of stuff. Oh, I can't drink champagne at my kid's wedding, and I can't do this, and I can't. And it's like, I don't know why I was fixated on those kinds of things, except for, again, fear. But yeah, looking back, I feel like, gosh, if I had only known then how amazing I was going to feel in just, you know, I mean, it sounds like a long time, but a matter of, you know, a couple years, I was a different person completely. So, I mean, I don't know. We all get to where we are, I believe, you know, because of the path that was laid out before us. I don't think it was an accident that, you know, I was kind of lollygagging around, but that's what I would share with myself is like, hey, psst, like, get on board. Like, it's going to be so good, you know, like one of those like mystery flights or something.
Right?
Just surrender, you know?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I too often wonder, like, if I had been given like a sober glass ball to look into, and like, if you just do this, this, and this, you're gonna get all of these things. Like, I would have been like, no way.
Right.
No way. And then I'm sure I would have just been like gone and then done something to mess it all up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, my MO is often like, oh, let's burn it to the ground, you know?
Right. Repeatedly for me.
Yeah, repeatedly. I love getting in my own way. Well, you know, being of service is a big part of our life. Are there any like local nonprofits that you're aligned with that have an emphasis on recovery, or just any nonprofit in general, I guess?
Yeah. I currently pretty much primarily give to my kids' school, but I've also done Mary's Place, Recovery Cafe, Residence 12 when it was still a thing. But, you know, treatment centers are such a big deal to me because of, you know, how difficult it can be to get a bed and get in there. So, yeah, they definitely have my heart.
Yep. All of those are on my list as well. Okay, Amy, Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Oh,
I know.
really?
But I'm also impartial. I'll take either. And I know some people are like, nope, it's Diet Coke or nothing. And I'm that person who's like, I'll do Diet Coke then. Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Where was I the other day where they only had Pepsi products? I think I was at the Kraken, our new Seattle hockey team practice arena, and it was clearly there, you know, everything was Pepsi, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm such a loyalist. Really, because I'm really not that committed to anything. I don't know why Diet Coke is the one thing that I'm like, That's my moral high
That's
ground.
where I draw the line. Yeah.
Do you have any guilty pleasures?
Oh, so many. The most recent one is during the pandemic, I got started eating like a bunch of junk food. And we're talking like, bowls of cereal, Lucky Charms, when I have honeycomb cereal at night, I was eating Mike and Ike's. I bought a shave ice machine and I was making You did? See?
Yes.
I knew
Yes.
it.
You
See,
and I were separated at birth because I'm also eating cereal. I love Mike and Ike's, and I got myself a real fancy Cuisinart shave ice machine. I love it.
I love it. Simpatico. Yep.
Yep. I mean, if I could have a slushie machine in my kitchen, I would do it.
Yeah. I
On
almost
tap.
bought a granita machine. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to hate cleaning that. So the shave ice machine has been it's been the bomb.com because it just kind of drips into the sink with that little hose and then.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad to clean up.
Not too shabby. Yep.
Okay, let's get into the pop culture round because this is really where I like to shine. So we're going to talk about all the sober pop culture things, which I know is sober pop culture actually a thing? Probably not. I made it up, but I love pop culture. And then I love looking at it through the lens of recovery and sober celebrities and all of that. Do you have like an iconic pop culture moment that like you could talk about forever? Like, I guess an example for me would be when Brittany and Justin wore the denim tuxedo, denim on denim outfit to that one award show. Like, that was a moment in time, right? That's an outfit that no one will ever, a pairing of outfits that no one will ever forget. Do you have like any kind of pop culture moments that like you really just like, oh, that was great?
Well, I have a ton of those, but most of them are super old. So, I think of the time that I bumped into Eric Estrada at the San Francisco Planet Hollywood, and he was on a show called Chips about, about the highway patrol in California. And that was one moment. And another moment I just absolutely was obsessed with, or series of moments, was the OJ trial. Loved the OJ trial, and I was living in LA at the time, so it was everywhere and it was all people talked about. So those are the two that just come to mind immediately.
Did you watch the most recent, and by recent it's a couple years old now, the OJ Simpson like docu-series that was on, you know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah.
So do you think he did it, or do you buy into any conspiracy theories that it was him protecting his son?
Okay. The honest truth is, I think he probably did it. Yeah. And I love OJ. And you know what? I'd go golfing with him. I would. I mean, look, I believe in forgiveness. But yeah, I do tend to believe in conspiracy theories though. So I'm surprised that I'm not super into that one, but I could change. I've done a lot of changing in my life.
Yeah. You just have to have an open mind, right? Have an open mind.
That's it.
Do you have any favorite sober celebrities?
I love Macklemore, and it's not just because he's local here to Seattle, but also because he hasn't been afraid to share relapses. And I think that's a super important part of recovery. And I think, it's easy probably as a celebrity to just be like hiding behind, oh, well, I'm sober, but when you say, hey, I had this slip, or, I reset my date or whatever, it helps educate people about the disease. And I think that's super important because it's cunning, baffling, powerful in ways that are hard to understand. If you're not an addict or alcoholic. And so I really admire him.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And I appreciate his authenticity around his sharing as well. Like, I think it's really important,
Yep.
Any other ones?
Well, he's one that comes first to mind. Second to come to mind would be Jamie Lee Curtis, and just, the way that she's just been true to herself and true to share with others about her journey. And, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, especially I would think in Hollywood, to stay sober that long.
Yeah. And, there's more and more and more of them coming out or recovering out loud all the time.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, just like I talked about earlier, like that ego involved of when you do relapse, then having to maybe talk about it can be, there can be shame attached to that. But what I love about like her, or like Robert Downey Jr. or Elton John or even Eminem, like these are all celebrities that they got sober and were talking about sobriety before it was cool. I don't know if we're cool now, but I do feel like we're somewhat trending, or it's more acceptable, or there's more people talking about it. Do you have any opinion on when Demi Lovato came out as California sober and then switched then 6 months later to being sober? Any thoughts around that? Like any concern around, because I guess, let me rephrase, not a concern, but I do feel like people with large audiences, which are usually defined as celebrities, have a responsibility because of the platform that they have with the amount of people they can reach with their opinions, right?
Right.
So do you get nervous when you see like the Demi Lovatos of the world talking about California sober?
Well, I would say this. I would say that, everybody has their own pathway. And while her particular, the California sober thing is, in my mind, not an option. I'm kind of like an all or nothing person in terms of sobriety. I just, anything mind or mood altering is not healthy for me. It's not the best choice for me. And, I think the healthy part of what she's doing is she's showing her journey. And not everybody's journey is cut and dry and smooth sailing and goes in a linear trajectory. And so she is showing her process, and whether or not she, does the California sober thing or doesn't, I like that she's at least being honest. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, and for her, I think especially with the heavier drugs she was using before, it's a path of harm reduction, right?
Right.
So which I fully support, but
Totally.
for gals like you and me that grew up in church basements and were taught otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself in this rock and a hard place between, for lack of a better term, old sobriety and new sobriety.
Sure.
I try to figure out where I fit. Because I see both sides, if you will,
right.
Or I want to see both sides anyway.
And if I could throw in just one more thought about that, people could look at my recovery and, I have some mental health stuff that I take medicine for. And, there's always going to be something in everybody's recovery that somebody else wants to comment on
pick
or have
apart.
an opinion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's, at the end of the day, though, I think the recovery community at large is one of the most understanding, non-judgmental, helpful group of people that mean well.
Yes.
But, we also didn't most of us didn't come in on a winning streak either. So there's that. There's definitely that. What about your playlist? Like, what podcasts are you listening to right now, or music that you've got on repeat? Anything going on there?
Well, I always have the 80s and 90s hip hop on repeat. I mean, that's kind of my jam. Podcasts, I love Rob Bell. He's got something called the Robcast. And basically, that really helped me through my deconstruction of faith and reconstruction of faith. So I love him, and I love Jen Hatmaker, who's an author. And what I love specifically about her is just the way she had a marriage fall apart a couple of years ago, and she did the Recover Out Loud thing through that process and through therapy. And I thought that was super important, especially having grown up in the evangelical Christian church. Counseling was for, people who had issues. And
Right.
so I think that's really brave of her to share her story on her platform. And I just admire it so much. And I think she's awesome and hilarious. So
Yeah, she's really
yeah.
funny. She's one of my faves too. What about movies or TV shows? Are you watching anything, or have you recently watched anything that has addiction, recovery, mental illness as part of the storyline?
Yeah, well, I'm still obsessed. I know it was a while ago now, but I'm still obsessed with Dope Sick. I thought that that was so well
So
done.
good. Mm-hmm.
And I just, I don't even have anything else to relate it to. It just was such a powerful series. And so that was amazing. Um, and I like some of the old school movies too, like Clean and Sober or 28 Days,
What
with
about
Sandra.
When a Man Loves a Woman?
I had my own When a Man Loves a Woman experience, falling in my shower and breaking my nose back when I was drinking. So I totally love that one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you see Michael Keaton's acceptance speech from, I think it was the Golden Globes a couple weeks ago?
I didn't.
Oh, I'll have to find the video of it and send it to you.
Great.
It's great. He talks about, I think it was I don't think it was his son, maybe nephew. There was somebody, a close family member that had battled addiction that it was great. I'll send it to you. I'm not doing it justice right now by any means. We've talked a little bit about your spirituality and your evangelical background. Yet another thing you and I have in common. Is there anything else more you want to add about your daily meditation practice or anything else around that?
The only thing I want to add to that is that I guess the biggest deal for me was being willing to let that all fall by the wayside too, and just be willing to say to myself, maybe God wants a different experience for you. And so maybe this whole thing, you've just complicated it over the years, Amy. And so just the ability to let all that go was super helpful for me. And it continues to be, changing and dynamic. It's been a great experience for me to be able to just say, yeah, let me see what this looks like. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Oh, that's an interesting book. And I would say my top person that I just really admire is Father Richard Rohr. And he wrote this book called Breathing Underwater. And it's about 12 steps. And he is not an addict or alcoholic, and just need to get somebody else's perspective and intertwine it with spirituality. And, the more I open my mind, the better, it is for me. So I don't get locked into thinking I know everything when I so don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to have to check that one out. I have a friend of mine who has actually done the 12 steps, even though she's not an alcoholic. And I don't even know if she's ever been to an AA meeting, but she knows enough about it. And at one point in her life, she just decided, I'm going to do this. And, we talk about this all the time. The first step is the only one that has anything to do with drinking. The rest of it is just about you, me. So that was Breathing Underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Do you have a favorite place that you like to vacation or travel sober? I know you get to do a bit of traveling.
Yeah. I love just traveling sober. I love that I can remember what I'm doing. I don't have to rely on pictures to go, wait, what did I do there? I can't remember. And, not waking up hungover and being able to really embrace the moment and enjoy the experiences. But I still am a big, big Hawaii fan. I just love it. that's probably my top favorite place to go.
Yeah, I agree. I went in earlier recovery. I think I was around like 3 years sober, 4 years sober, 5 years sober. A friend and I went to a sober convention in Honolulu
Oh,
and
fun.
Oahu for 3 years in a row. It was always right around Halloween. So perfect time to go, kind of off season there. It's not, but it's kind of getting gross here in Seattle. And we never went to very many of the conference or the classes or the meetings because we were mostly at the beach. But we would always go to their Halloween party because everybody would dress up. And one year we thought we were going to be slutty pirates because that was going to be so original on an island. It was not. It was not. But I have to tell you, the guy that dressed up like a keg at a sober Halloween party, hilarious. I could not get enough of that.
So good.
So good. Have you ever tried or have you ever witnessed when somebody goes up to at the gate, the airline stand, and where they can make overhead announcements and just said, will a friend of Bill or Bob please come up to, gate 9? Have you ever experienced that? That little trick?
No, I haven't, but I love it.
Yeah, I did it once, not because I needed to do it. It was advice given to me in early recovery when I was traveling quite a bit, that if I got antsy, I just needed to go up, and I couldn't get somebody on the phone for some reason. I just needed to go up to, one of the flight attendants or flight, I don't know what do they call them when they're working at the gate? Flight person,
gate agent.
Gate agent. Thank you. And just say, could you please page, a friend of Bill or Bob to come to the stand or whatever. So I tried it once. I was just curious, would anybody actually show up? Right. I'm one of those people that I'll try anything once. If I like it, I'll try it a bunch more times. And 3 people came up and we just sat there. And, yeah, we were all headed on the same flight. And no, that's 2 of the 3 were headed on the same flight. One was happened to be at the gate next to us going somewhere else, but heard it on the speaker and came over. And so we all kind of just did not a meeting, but we just had a quick little conversation, and it was really cool. I think that's one of my favorite things about traveling is checking out meetings in other places, which now with the pandemic, obviously, if we want to go to a meeting in Paris, we can. But the in-person is, I don't know, there's something cool about it because it's the same but different in other places.
Oh yeah. And I love that you tried that and it worked. That makes me so happy. It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, it totally worked. And I find now, when I was traveling to San Diego in the summer of 2021, I was wearing a sober pop hat. And this gal came up to me and she was just like, something really incredible just happened to me, and you look like really nice and inviting and welcoming. And I'm assuming it's because my hat said sober, right? She's like, could I just share this thing that just happened to me? I just need to tell someone. And I was like, yeah, tell me. And she had just finished, she was in her 40s, and she had just gotten her first test score back on her first exam. She had just started college for the first time, and a little bit later than maybe most people do it. And she got an A, and she was so nervous and whatever. But she was so excited, and she it gave her faith that she was going to be able to do this. And she just wanted to tell someone that she got an A. And because I was wearing my sober hat, she decided I was that person. And it was just and she's like, I just wanted to share my joy with you. And I was like, I'm getting a little teary now thinking about it, because it was just we become so approachable when we're sober. Sometimes maybe more approachable than we would like, but we just do. I don't know. It's just this essence that I think comes out of us when we're doing all the things we're supposed to be doing. But yeah, traveling sober is the best.
It is the best. And just on that note, I love that story because, in my mind, the opposite of addiction is love and connection. and to be able to make those connections with other people, even people you'll never see again.
Never.
It's like such a gift. I was not able to make connections when I was drinking that were real and authentic. I was just able to make some drinking buddies who I hoped maybe would, help fix me.
Yeah.
And never happened that way. So I'm grateful, now to have something that works. But what a gift of recovery that you experienced. That's cool.
Well, I'm excited for the day that you and I travel sober together. I'm sure it will be like Thelma and Louise in our matching travel 80s outfits. I've got an Esprit bag. I have an Esprit bag that I like to travel with because I can fit so much stuff in it, So that'll be a hoot. Well, Amy, this has been such a joy to talk to you today. And really quick, I guess the last thing I want to talk about is the new column that you're going to be doing on the Sober Curator. It is so exciting. When you sent me the email, like, I think this is what I want to do, I was like, this is going to be the best. So you're going to do a column called Eternally Awkward, kind of spinning off of your book, where our readers get to submit stories of their most embarrassing stories when sober. And I have a list of ones that I'm going to be able to submit, but do you have a kind of an iconic, embarrassing story that you've experienced yourself you want to share with us today?
Oh yeah. Experienced while sober. Well, there could be the time where I had a wardrobe malfunction on an airplane, going with that theme again, where I came out of the bathroom and I didn't know, but my skirt was stuffed into my tights. And, here you are trying to get back in your row and you're like, do I put my butt in the people's face or do I, put my front side in people's face? Which one? And I chose to put my butt in people's face.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And somebody told me, oh, hey, your skirt is up in the back. And it was mortifying because I had to sit next to them for the rest of the flight. And I was trying to be like, oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks. And I was trying to just kind of make it go away. I was mortified.
But being embarrassed sober, you do get better at it, but it is awkward at first.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's right up there with like sober sex, just awkward. It's just
awkward, right? And then it's, okay, I got to learn the rule 62. Don't take myself so seriously, but sometimes it's hard and you just want to go, stomp your feet and just go, man, why does this stuff always happen to me? And, the truth is it's not a big deal. Like really in the grand scheme of life, the things that I've been through, is this a big deal? Not really. And it makes for a great story later.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Well, I'm excited to share more of my embarrassing stories with you. And I'm sure our readers are going to love to read them all because one of my favorite things is laughing with and at other people. Like it does bring me joy, especially when we learn to not take ourselves so seriously.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, my friend. Well, we will be talking soon.
Sounds good. Thanks. Love you long time. Thank you for having me. Yeah.